This beat crazy.
And now, a three-time sports editor, former online and managing editor, and host of Talk That Talk, award-winning journalist Terrell Chatterbox Emerson.
I guess I kept the mics muted, but welcome to it. Welcome to it. It is 3:00 on a Monday afternoon. You guys know what time it is. It is time for Talk That Talk. I am your host, Terrell Chatterbox Emerson. If you guys are watching via our YouTube, you already know who I'm in the studio with. And that's because we started with the wide shot. We started with the shot of Alex Wright from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, formerly of UNLV, of course. That's where we made our bones. But yeah, man, what's going on, Alex? How you doing, brother?
Doing good. It's nice and warm in here. It's very cold and windy out here in Las Vegas today, and this weekend it's been cold and windy too. But let's be in the warm studio talking sports today.
And you kind of said it right. I'm not a person who gets cold very often. And I don't even know if you know, like, if you noticed it when I dapped you up, my hands were freezing when I walked into this building.
Yeah.
And I'm not a person that really gets cold very often, but on the drive in, I was like, okay, this is kind of outrageous. I didn't think I would miss a summer in Vegas, but I kind of do.
Right. Especially the wind. It's just whirling all over the place, and that's making it colder. I think it said the wind chill was like in the 40s or something. And I think tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn it's going to be like 22 degrees,
and that's when I need to be in my house.
Yeah,
definitely tucked away from all people who want to be out in that 22 degree weather. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys once again. Thank you for joining us for our Monday show. A lot to get to today. I do have a tip in from my mom that we're going to start. Let me get my keys up the way. I do got a tip in from my mom that we're going to get the show started with, so let's get all the logistics out of the way first. Today is episode 330 of the Talk That Talk radio show. So episode 330, it is episode 4 of season 7. Again, Alex Wright is in the building with me. This show is being shot from the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park here on Sunset, here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, guys, I've been having some conversations recently. I actually was just talking to Alex before we even started recording about a conversation I'm going to have this week. Just a lot of things in motion right now. I know Alex is busy. I know I'm busy. Shout out to Will Despart, right? Will typically does the Monday shows with me, at least the past couple weeks, maybe past couple months. But I believe we have him penciled in for Thursday. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. Will Despart of the Sporting Tribune should be in with us. But let's get socials out the way, and then we can go ahead and get right to it. The Talk That Talk radio show, guys. You guys can, again, I mentioned our YouTube earlier. If you guys would like to watch our YouTube, follow us and on all of our socials. Keep up to date with what we have going on with the radio show as well as the company. All you guys have to do is go to your little search bar, type in Talk That Talk radio show. That would work on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, as well as YouTube. The one thing that would be different is our Twitter. Our Twitter is at Talk That Talk LV. Once again, our Twitter is at Talk That Talk LV. Do I have anything else? Alex, do you have anything else before we get to my mom's tip in? And I think we're done after that, brother. We can get right to the show.
No, I do not.
All right, where's my phone at? Where's my mom's tip in? So I'm gonna put the camera back on me for a second because I went all black. Can I say all black? I got some hints of some white in here, but it's majority all black. I woke up today knowing that it was King Day. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I wanted to wear all black and I couldn't find a particular hoodie, so I was like, I got to just double back on the Slauson. I need to pod to get all of my true feelings out. since we're here on this sports radio show, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm almost positive that I saw Elon Musk hail Hitler twice and nobody said anything. And I think I'm going to leave that at that. You ever seen somebody do something so blatant? I watched that video about 14 times. I said, there is no way in hell that I'm watching what I'm watching right now. Again, from the Tesla in front of the Trump Tower, rest in peace to that person as well. From that, I still think about the terrorist attacks, obviously, in New Orleans. Today made 20 days into 2025. I couldn't tweet half of the things I was thinking. Somebody just texted me silence. See, so I don't know what I'm saying or if I shouldn't be saying it, but we're gonna get to this tip in. I had to preface it by saying that my mom sent me a grip, but I like this one. Matter of fact, I might use King tip-ins the rest of the month, like just because. But my mom sent me this one, and then we can get right to the show. I'm sorry, guys. This entire 3-week span to start this year has been like, what the hell? Meanwhile, we're about to talk about basketball. Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. I'll read my mom's tip in one more time. Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Again, I feel like some things are. This is what I'll say. And the funny thing is, if we were on TV, we couldn't deviate too much from the rundown. That's where we get a little bit of flexibility with radio. I'll say this really quick. I had a conversation with my dad not too long ago, and I said, "Hey, if you could see the future and you knew that Trump was going to get 4 or 8 years regardless, would you have given him his 8 consecutively first?" And he was like, "What does that have to do with anything?" I said, in my humble opinion, a lot. I said, because I still think he's the same erratic person today that he was 8 years ago. You know what the difference is? He had 4 years of buffer time in between, and I think that made him more dangerous. That's what I think. And this is another thing too. There's been a stillness to today that I want everybody to pay attention to. There's been a level of stillness to today that I feel like is going to serve as the omen, because nobody's reacting to anything that changed today. Give it 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks. Now, I guess we move on to sports. And we're supposed to make some sort of sense of what we're expected to see tonight between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Again, most of you guys know, as a Southern California native, anything but Notre Dame. I don't really care.
Yeah, we got. Would you have expected to see Ohio State, Notre Dame when the playoffs started?
One side, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them.
Mm-hmm. We got 2 teams that kind of have a lot of talent, obviously, but you got the Ryan Day element of Ohio State, where
you said it.
where they lost to Michigan, and there's kind of always been this thing about, and it's on both sides, that are they going to win the big game?
Right.
Is Ryan Day going to win that national championship? Same thing with Notre Dame. They've been close. They've been right there. Is this with Marcus Freeman now? Is this their time that they're going to win the big game?
And initially, because of the Ryan Day point, do you lean away initially? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think, and I kind of told you guys last week too, when Will comes in here, I don't really tell Will what the rundown is. Alex is kind of the same way. I did it today only because we have a live game going on right now. Go ahead and check out your Vegas Golden Knights side by side with this radio show, and we'll get to them in hour number 2. But I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't think you were going there first, but I think that's where this game is decided, on the sidelines.
Right. Who makes the right coaching decision, who makes the right in-game adjustments. This game could be, as fair or unfair, is going to be a lot on these coaches' legacy.
For sure.
Because also, you have the Notre Dame element where they've lost plenty of games that they shouldn't have lost. We look at Northern Illinois, future Mountain West football member. I guess we could say, if Notre Dame wins, I guess we could say a Mountain West team beat the national champion.
Quick question. How did UNLV fare against Notre Dame? Never mind. We don't have to answer that. We don't got to answer that one.
It was a nice trip. But,
Word. And shout out to you who was in the building, right?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Good thing I was watching it on TV.
But yeah, it's just again, like you look at Ohio, look at Notre Dame. We're gonna see on the field. I mean, you mentioned it's going to come down to coaching, and I feel like for Notre Dame, it's going to be a matter of how can Riley Leonard make some plays with his arm, because I expect, Will Howard in Ohio State's offense with Jeremiah Smith, they're going to have a lot of explosive plays. They're going to get some points on the board. How can Riley Leonard fare? How could Marcus Freeman and his staff put Leonard in a position to capitalize on obvious throwing situations and times where maybe they're down 2 scores and they need a big passing play, and these QB runs might not necessarily do it. So it's going to, whether it's fair or not, the coach, these coaches this is going to be a big part of their legacy. It's going to kind of feed into kind of maybe the narratives around the team. If Ohio State is the more physical and dominant team, then put that Michigan loss behind, and it's like, all right, they got that one, and it's a different perspective maybe on Ryan Day, and kind of same thing on Marcus Freeman too, maybe, or maybe more Notre Dame as a whole, since it's been a while since Notre Dame's been at the top of college football.
And I'm happy that you said that. And the funny thing is, let's just take it kind of I'm not going to go deep position by position, right? But let's just take certain little keys to what you said. Will Howard or Riley Leonard? Which one are you taking?
Will Howard.
Interesting. I like Riley a lot.
Yeah.
And I said this about Josh Allen, which we'll get to the NFL in one second. I was texting somebody who was actually a Buffalo fan, and I told her, and I was like, what's so scary about Buffalo now? She said, what? I said, Josh is realizing that I could throw for 147 yards and win. That's the scary part. Like, we know that you can throw for 300. You're probably going to throw 2 picks if you do that. So now that he's understanding, hey, I can throw the ball 12 times. We only complete 10 of them. I didn't ran the ball 8 times. James got 20 carries. Like, okay, now we've kind of pieced this together. I said I'm like week 3. Okay, that team looks a little different, right? I feel like it goes now. What you said about the sideline in terms of which coach doesn't make the big mistake, I feel like that's the way I kind of feel with these quarterbacks. The way that I feel about Riley, where I'm kind of high on him, I look at Will Howard, and the same reasons why people look at me nuts when I say that I'm high on Riley Leonard, I kind of say the same thing with Will Howard. At some point, you're just looking at him like, I'm waiting for him to mess up. Like it doesn't look fluid, right? I take that back. That Oregon game. Mm-hmm. That Oregon game, second time around, looked fluid, right? So I'll give him that. But I think that one could be a toss-up, right?
Yeah.
Now, just in terms of athleticism, the athletes, I believe that Ohio State has more of them.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think the crucial mistakes gets made by Ryan Day. As much as I want Notre Dame to go down, I feel like Marcus Freeman is going to keep the main thing. And I'm not going to coach myself out of this game. Ryan Day might.
You're right. You feel like, because, you mentioned, Will Howard and the mistake he had at the end of the first Oregon game.
Right.
You feel like
I felt so bad for him that game.
Yeah, I did too. And you mentioned Ryan Day. Some of these, Michigan games where they try to be the more physical team when, you didn't have to be. You could have put your playmakers, your receivers in more positions to make plays as opposed to trying to be this ground and pound, physical team when maybe you didn't need to be. I feel like, Marcus Freeman, right, like the main thing being the main thing. They're not going to deviate too much out of themselves. They're not going to try to think, get out too far outside the box,
Right.
Get too different from who they are. And just kind of stick to their game plan and just kind of lean on their guys. And like you said, with Riley Leonard, if they can find success with him, running the ball, and they find some positions where he can make some plays too, then they're just going to lean on him to do that. They'll lean on their defense, and they'll lean on their O-line to push them forward.
And that was actually where I was going next, right? I feel like Riley can be, that was my Josh Allen point. I feel like Riley can be a real thorn in Ohio State's side, just keeping drives alive with his legs.
Right. It's those 3rd and 6, and he's looking for a guy and then takes it down and runs and gets 7 yards, and the drive extends. It's 3rd and 4. It's 3rd and short, the QB sneak.
You want to know the key to what you said?
Mm-hmm.
It's 3rd and 6, and he picks up 7.
Right.
It's not 3rd and 6, and he picks up 13. Like, these are slow, long, methodical drives that I see Notre Dame, almost at Ohio State, that I see Notre Dame possibly having tonight.
Right. And just that physicality. I mean, I just think about that Georgia game. There were just so many plays where he's diving, he's leaping, he's taking the hit, and he's just going to kind of find his way forward. And it's going to come down to probably Ohio State if they could, force him to make the mistake. Can he make the mistake? Can he fumble? Does he throw the interception on the deep pass?
Now, going back to what you said before, you might have to force the mistake. Like you said, the mistake might be a fumble. Go get it, because it doesn't look like he's going to go down. Like you said before, going back, just looking at his history, number one, then looking at this year. Now you're in a national title game. I'm not going down. Like, I don't see, you're gonna have to tackle me, and I see that happening, right? And you want to give me a score?
Probably go Ohio State 35, Notre Dame 28.
That's so. I'm at 31-28. I think it's Notre Dame though. If Notre Dame wins, don't text me tonight.
Oh,
I'm just gonna be like,
don't check in on him,
bro. I might be at a bar.
Yeah.
Like, just go drink immediately. Like, just be ready just in case.
I'll take a Guinness.
Yeah. You know what's funny? This is funny because this is just like the bartender and me creeping out. I hate Guinnesses. I hate Guinness. I don't even know if I might be supposed to say it that way. I hate Guinness beers. I absolutely hate them.
I'm not a fan of dark beers.
Really?
Either. Yeah.
I would do a Guinness if it's a snake bite. People call them black and tans. I've heard them black velvets, but a snake bite is essentially an apple cider at the bottom. 9 times out of 10, it's an Angry Orchard, and then it's the Guinness on top. So if you ever see it, it stays separated. So it looks like coagulated blood. That's essentially what it looks like. So that's why it's called a snake bite. That's the only way I would do a Guinness. Yeah. Never doing anything else with that. That's funny.
Might have to try that.
I'm telling you, if you're gonna do it, do a snake bite. Matter of fact, we're going out sometime this week and we need to go do a snake bite. But playoff thoughts. College football playoff, first time 12 team field. They did say that tweaks could be coming. That sounds like they already got a tweak, at least one in the tuck that they're getting ready to pump out. I'm not really sure what the tweaks are. Even being here in the Mountain West, obviously, I do think seeding should come into play a little bit more. But how did you feel about this playoff, and what tweaks could you see them coming up with?
I really enjoyed it. I felt like we got a good, the playoff was entertaining, as we've seen in the past, but even with 4 teams, there were blowouts. And as you expand the playoff field to that second tier or even third tier of teams, there's going to be more blowouts with more games. We saw that in the NFL, especially as they've expanded to 14, and you got that 2 seed versus 7 seed game. That's always a blowout. So that's just going to...
Relax. We were the 7th seed this year. Chill out. Chill.
Sorry for bringing that up.
Yeah, somebody brought up Green Bay last night. I was like, we're out. Like, why do you keep bringing us? Like, leave us alone.
But all in all, I like that it's 12. I think for me, I would like 16. I think changes. I expect that they'll keep the automatic buys for the conference champs, but just seed them out, so that way if you're UNLV and you're an 18 ranked 18, you'll be the 12 seed as
Right.
opposed to getting your way up to potentially a 4 seed, like we saw with how Boise State and Arizona State. And I would hope in the future that the teams that get the bye get a home playoff game. I would really like to see that happen. I felt like they were kind of some of these teams were kind of disadvantaged because you have the bye. That's a week you're not playing, and your team has a win. They have juice from a home playoff win, and they can carry that into the next game. And you're coming into this neutral site type of game, and it's kind of like it kind of throws everything off maybe a little bit. And would like to see that. I think it'd be good. That would have been like, imagine if we got the Oregon Ohio State rematch in Oregon. If we got Penn State hosting a game, you got Georgia, hosting someone, right? And I think those are two things that I especially would love to see the home playoff game. And I think it's this after this next upcoming year is like they do the TV deal or something.
Mhm.
So I think that's when, or something like that, or
Is it 27, 26, 27?
26, 27, something like that, where I think it's
What if I can figure it out real quick?
where I think that's when they can make more changes, like expanding the field or doing all sort of that thing. But all in all, I thought it was good, and I think like I've talked about here and we've talked about before, there was just so much parity in college football. There was not that one or two dominant teams, and because of
They
that,
said they just re-up, and at least this is according to ESPN. This is a story from March of last year.
Mhm.
They said that they actually just agreed to a 6-year deal, so now it's till 31, 32.
okay.
So 6 more years.
But all in all, I thought a lot of parity,
Mhm.
and we saw that play out in the playoff with you had a team in Ohio State that you kind of think about their path. They would have, if they win, they would have beaten Oregon. They would have beaten, or their resume as a whole.
Yeah.
Beat Oregon, beat Texas, beat Penn State, beat Indiana, beat Tennessee,
lot
and
of
beat
dubs.
Notre Dame. So that's
Yeah,
6.
but lost the big game.
That lost the big game. That's what all the Michigan fans are going to say. But
They're absolutely going to bring that up.
they of course they will.
100% they'll still bring
But
it up.
you'd have to say, Ohio State, they would have earned it this year if they're able to finish it off tonight.
I like 70% of what you said. Not that I dislike the other one, but a lot of it is what was kind of my way of thinking. I forgot who just recently came out and said this, but I agree with you in terms of it seeming like the second round of the college football playoff, you're kind of at a disadvantage. Like, let's just say I am a Boise State. Why do I have to play in Arizona?
Yeah.
Why do I have to go to play in Florida? Like, why? Like, this doesn't benefit me at all. So just from that standpoint, right, I kind of like the idea of the last 3 games of the college football playoff are traditional bowl games.
Mhm.
So when we get to our final 4, reason why I'm still doing quotations because nobody said it yet, and I don't know why nobody has said it, but whatever. We now have a college football final 4. So I can see the Rose Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl being then.
Mhm.
Or the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. Like, switch it up, but do those 2, and then you have your national title game. Now, you and I love college football. We've been doing this for a long time. That means you have more bowl games to fill. So
Right.
does that mean that you entertain 5 and 7 teams? Because you look at a Louisiana Tech, they got in because Marshall had so many players opt out. They're 5 and 7.
Mhm.
I have to double back, but if I recall correctly, I don't think that game was close. And let's just say that it wasn't. If I'm wrong, sorry, somebody gonna let me know. But Alex is about to let me know. Let's just say it wasn't close. Was it?
It was 27-6 Army with a win over Louisiana Tech.
Not close. So going under that guys, right? It makes you kind of not want to put 5 and 7 teams in there. Respectfully, we were a part of a program in terms of covering one that was 5 and 7 a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
They should have gone. Like, you know what I mean? But that opens up more bowl games. So I'm just wondering what the recourse would be, because it sounds great for the top end of it. we might have some really bad bowl games on the back end of it.
Right. And there's, a lot of bowl games. ESPN owns a lot of bowl games, and it's a good way for ESPN on a Tuesday afternoon to get a million viewers for a program when you watch Louisiana Tech and Army play in, middle of nowhere, Mobile, Alabama, or just random city that's not 32 degrees and snowy right
This
now.
is great.
But really,
Imagine a 5-7 UNLV team and a 5-7 Louisiana Tech team. I would make them play flag football. We're not even
pretty fun. They'll, have them go in the Raiders facility and just play some flag football, or do like a
my
Madden,
Lord, bro.
do like a Madden tournament.
We should absolutely do something.
I remember, and my high
I'm
school.
crying
I
again.
remember my high school. They had a Madden tournament as like a fundraiser to raise some money.
We might want to do that,
or
get rid of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I'm sorry, I'm that negative.
Oh yeah, man, I know you hate the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
My God, bro,
Pop-Tarts Bowl should be.
I thought the Cheez-It Bowl was the worst.
You saw that they had the field that had like the scoops for all the media where it's all the different Cheez-It flavors.
No,
So like it was like a big in the football field. You can go over and like this section has extra cheesy. This section has pepper jack. This one has buffalo wing.
I'm not gonna hold you.
Mhm.
The white cheddar Cheez-It, fire gets me every time, dog. I've snuck those in the movies before.
Oh, yeah,
Like, I don't want the white cheddar seasoning on my pocket.
Right.
No, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
we'll have to get one of those. Some of those.
You never had one?
I don't remember having them. I can't remember the last time I've had them.
What was the first thing we said? I'm bringing you that and a snake bite. I'm bringing you that and a snake bite. But yeah, I think more home games just because you see the atmosphere, right? And again, let's just talk about it on a smaller scale, right? We saw what this building looked like when Boise came to Allegiant this year. UNLV had something to play for. UNLV had a real belief that they were going to get the victory. That building was insane through the first 45 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The moment the fourth quarter started, things started to go awry.
Mm-hmm.
But 45 minutes into that game, you felt an energy in that building. I couldn't imagine being at one of these home college football playoff games. We kind of saw what it looked like, at least from Penn State's perspective, right? Like they had, or Notre Dame's perspective, excuse me. They had an energy around them that, I'm going to be honest, I don't think you can capture anywhere else but their home field, right? And just from the outside looking in, I guess you can call this a tweak a little bit. In terms of the college football playoff, would you want... I don't know how I feel about there because I've seen things that have come up, and reseeding after each round is like being brought up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And to be honest, let me not say that it's being brought up because I haven't heard from anybody that specifically that has said that matters in that realm, right? That could just be us online talking, right? I don't like the idea of it because when Mike Hughes was here, shout out to Mike Hughes, when he was here, he made a statement and said, we're doing all of this and you're going to get your 1 versus 3, your 1 versus 2, your 3 versus 2, like stuff like that. And I told him, I said, I agree with you. I said, what's going to be the difference is that 1 year you get a 6 versus an 11. Well, that wouldn't be possible, but you get a 3 versus an 11. You get a 1 versus a 12. You might get one of those random wacky years. Mm-hmm. I texted him after this college football playoff game was set, or after this national championship game was set. I texted him and said it took 1 year. What do we have, a 7 and 8?
Mm-hmm.
It took 1 year. So everybody's talking about reseeding, but even if you reseed, you guys are lying. If you reseed right now and you tell me Notre Dame is in your top 4, you're lying to me. So even with a reseeding now, with everything that we know, we would still have a 5 or lower in there. I think from that standpoint alone, reseeding shouldn't happen. More college football games at home, or more college football playoff games at home, probably should happen. But again, I think the only thing that may stop that is, where do we fill these other bowl games?
Right. I mean, especially because these bowl games have won a lot of they're big. They want the best teams in. And it's like you get a 9-3 team or 8-4 team with
Right.
everyone kind of opting out. So you feel like those bigger bowl games will fight to be in the playoff, and you'll get teams that win multiple bowl games, but maybe don't win the national championship. So they'll be like, well, we won the Fiesta Bowl, and then we won the Orange Bowl, but then we lost the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So do you put up? How does that banner look up?
I want 2 banners and I want 2 rings. Those are 2 really hard games to win. That's what I would want.
Right, and you get another banner maybe for conference championship.
Absolutely.
But the national championship game, don't worry about that.
We're not going to talk about that.
I talk about that.
If you want to know what's so crazy about college, about football in general, but especially about college, is Ryan Day ready for the offseason if he loses this game?
I mean, if they get outclassed tonight, I mean, you could see it on, First Take or
This is going to be
FS1. Ryan Day, is he the right guy for Ohio State? Is he ever going to win the big game? And it's kind of like, who do you have? Who can you get that's going to have a better record than Ryan Day? There's not, Nick Saban's not. He's done.
Yeah,
Urban Meyer is done. There's not,
Urban Meyer should be done.
He should not be on TV. He should be done from there.
Thank you.
I always like there's people that are not Urban Meyer fans on Twitter that every time he talks about leadership and culture, that was just.
Hey man, this is the one thing I'll say about Urban Meyer really quick. We can talk some NFL playoffs. I don't want to say I lost respect for him, but where some things, especially about other men, you just shouldn't know, right? You just shouldn't know the way a person operates. Where I began to look at Urban Meyer through a certain lens, when he was coaching the Jags and they had a game against Cincinnati, but he went out to the bars that night. Now, first of all, I could judge him alone for just going out to the bars that night. And you're nodding your head because you know that he went out to that bar with an Ohio State team issued hoodie, sweater, track jacket, whatever the hell it was. I said, oh, real quick. Somebody in Urban's circle should have told him, hey, if you got to wear this, you shouldn't go. You just shouldn't go. So as soon as I saw that, every negative thing I heard about Urban Meyer in the past, I immediately believed it. Anything I was on the fence on, I believed it. I said, if you're that guy in Ohio as Urban Meyer that needs to walk into this bar with people that are 40 years younger than you, and you have to wear the Ohio, maybe you shouldn't be in there. Maybe Urban Meyer shouldn't be a lot of places. Based on some of the stories I heard when he was a Jaguar, I don't know if he should have been in that facility. You see how fast they hopped off that train? They were like, okay. All right, we're off. All right.
Bad idea.
This was a bad idea completely. Talk about erasing somebody from the history. They said, just pretend like this never happened. Speaking of pretending like it never happened, how many more times can Lamar Jackson do that? I don't. We just said we felt bad for Will Howard after the slide against Oregon in the first game. Shout to him, Lamar Jackson, for even talking about his interception, things of that nature. I literally it pained me to listen to that post-game presser because he never talks like somebody that doesn't believe he'll get there. But if you listen closely, there's doubt all through everything he says.
Right. I mean, how many times have they had those type of post-game press conferences? Not even just in the playoffs too, but in the regular season too. Go back to the opening week against the Chiefs and, tippy toes away from winning that game and, possibly changing maybe that game against Buffalo's at home. Right. And Maybe that's just, in the moment, that sense of defeat, and you're just kind of maybe that sense of doubt is just creeping right there after the moment of, are we ever gonna do that? If Josh Allen is still in Buffalo and still doing what he's doing, if Patrick Mahomes, if the Texans, stay, get better, right? And
Yeah.
that doubt kind of starts to creep in because they've had a lot of it, and it's kind of like every year or so, there's always that point where it's like Baltimore, they're the most talented team. They got the best quarterback, got coaching staff, got great defense, got the skill guys are producing, good kicker, all that sort of thing. And every year, it just they don't have the Super Bowl appearance to do it. So it's kind of like that moment of that doubt or could creep in, and it's like, man, if not now or any of these opportunities, is it ever going to happen?
And pardon, it gets you to overthinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think so many people overthink to the point to where they almost do something drastic. And obviously, we're able to do this show Monday afternoon, 3:00, so we get a little bit more time than a person that has to be in the studio at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning, right? So I've heard a couple of people talk about it. Was it? Ooh. Was it Chris Sims? I want to say maybe it was Chris Sims that said that Lamar held on to the ball too long, that the ball should have been caught. He did say that. Yeah. He said that Lamar held on to the ball too long and it wasn't necessarily on target. Now, my brother, shout out to Jarrell, was a quarterback my whole life, just growing up, right? And he was the first person who taught me. He always lined me up as his tight end. He was the first person that taught me, if it hits your hands, I'm expecting you to catch it. That hit Mark Andrews in the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother used to rip into me, dog, do you catch with your hands or your body? Like, what are we doing here? And everything that he taught me growing up, I watched that play and was like, anybody blaming Lamar needs their ass whooped.
You hit him in the hands. I mean, what else is, if we're going to look at that one play, I mean, what else is Lamar supposed to do? But again, it's going to come back to all the talk, right? Like, I think it was John Von Tobel was like tweeted as like, all these debate shows are going to forget about the Andrews drop and they're going to talk about Lamar's legacy, you know? And it's like, I know we had the turnovers earlier in the game, but that was the game, and he did everything he was supposed to do.
Yeah. And the interesting thing too about that is somebody said that Mark Andrews has a thing with dropping 2-point conversions, and I chuckle because Twitter is insane. I did like the initial aside from Baltimore fans, I did like the initial outpouring of love for most athletes that go through that situation, because you work your entire life, your entire season for that moment. To feel like you let down a locker room is a lot, and that weighs on people differently. So I did like the outpouring of love that he got. But they brought up that drop 2-point conversion against Pittsburgh. Everything I just said, right? You don't catch with your body, it touches your hands, you catch it. Yo, I don't care what nobody says. Y'all need to go back and watch that play. TJ Watt wrecked that play without touching a single soul. His mere presence made Lamar rush.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to what Sim said. I think it was Chris. That goes back to what Sim said to me now. I remember being here. I know what we're running.
Mm-hmm.
Mark is going to the flat. I'm not rushing it like I did last time. That's what I saw. So to feel like he may have held on to it too long, you can feel like that until it hits the target. Once it hits the target, like you said before, if I'm Lamar, what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to your week 1 point, he caught it. It was a touchdown. Damn. It wasn't. A KD moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it goes back to, like, probably the best point that you made when you first started. That's where the doubt comes in. I'm fresh off of this loss. We just did everything right. Mark Andrews, who has some of the surest hands, not only on this team, but in the NFL, how does he drop that one? And how does he drop it in that moment? And then you think back to week 1 sometimes, and you'd be like, well, first of all, how freaky is that? Like, how often is that going to happen? Okay, well, damn, what would that have changed? So if Buffalo beat him and then we would have beat him during the regular, now you just get to thinking. I think Lamar does that all day long. I'm not saying that there are some quarterbacks that don't. You can see, you can hear, you can feel that this one thinks about it nonstop.
Right. And part of that is kind of all this, legacy talk around Lamar, right? Like it's, he's won multiple MVPs, could win another one. He's always in the MVP race, but doesn't have the playoff success to show for it. So that kind of probably weighs into it, where he's always thinking about, man, how come we couldn't get this break? The breaks the Chiefs get, that they've gotten in the past, right? You see I want to go back to Brady and the Patriots, right? Like all the breaks that, the things that went their way, that they got the lucky catch, they got the other guy to drop it, they got the turnover. How come year in and year out we can't get that done? It's never kind of, it's gonna always kind of, I guess, gonna always be there until they actually, that it doesn't happen.
So they do it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, according to Jackson Woodard, and I had the conversation with Mike Hughes as well, like Jackson said, I don't believe in breaks. You create the break.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then Lamar, at a certain point, you can't wait for that door to be open. You got to kick it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for him, he's like, how much more can I kick it in, right? Pat McAfee did talk about it, and he did say that he was interested to see, and I guess look up after the fact that Derrick Henry didn't get any of Baltimore's 2-point conversions this year. And that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it also makes me think about what Ryan Clark said about every time he needs to get a yard and this is going to sound crazy coming off of the season that he had, but every time he needs to get a big 2 yards, he gets pushed back. Like he said, if he gets to your second level and a linebacker doesn't hit him, he picks up that speed. Now he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Clark's point always was, if I meet you in the hole, all I'm saying is maybe Buffalo or maybe Baltimore knows something that we don't know. And maybe there's a reason why Derrick didn't get the ball at the 2-yard line.
Right.
I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about the loser. I apologize, Buffalo. But Buffalo, man. So I got to pay up on this bet, and I don't think I've said it yet, and I'll say it publicly now. And maybe I did say it last week, but Dominique from UNLV, somebody who, or I have a friend rather, who I went to school with from UNLV named Dom, and she's a Buffalo fan, right? And we originally had a bet on if Green Bay and Buffalo made it to the Super Bowl. We had a bet, obviously. And obviously, most bets, I feel like all of you guys should do it, but most bets like that, they wind up resulting in whoever goes further, right? So I've known since 2 weeks ago, for 2 weeks now, that I got to pay up on this bet. Now, one thing about Dom, shout out to Dom, I love her to life, but her nails are always fire. Like her nails are always like top tier. So me being me, I said, I'm gonna need a Green Bay set if we go further. She said, cool. If we go further, she got this picture of her, like a mirror picture of her in like a buffalo tank. She said, I need you to blow this up and put it on a shirt. I am sick to my stomach, dog. Like, it has nothing to do with her. I'll put her on a shirt. Do you gotta wear the buffalo tank? Oh my God, bro. I feel like this is worse than a fantasy football pay a bit.
So you'd rather would have gone into the Waffle House or the IHOP and just start eating pancakes until you couldn't eat no more.
I mean, I'm probably gonna throw up either way. so I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or not. And really quick to all my friends out there who told me that Waffle House was fire, you lied. I was in Georgia pissed. I was in Georgia tight, dog. And somebody's like, "What'd you get?" I said, "I got a steak and eggs breakfast." Somebody was like, "Oh, that's not what you're supposed to get." See, I would never tell you to go to IHOP and don't order something. I'll never tell you to go to, I'm not going to give out any of these local names, but I had like 3 just come to mind. I'm never going to go there and be like, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to get that." Is this a breakfast place or not?
Right.
Steak and eggs is a classic breakfast.
Mhm.
What do you mean I'm not supposed to get it? I was like,
You're supposed to
bro.
get the waffle.
I was like, bro.
And
what
then
is
see someone
happening
fight
right
in
now?
the back booth. I mean,
I actually did see somebody get into it, and the funny thing is, I wasn't too far from one. This is probably my mistake number one. I walked, and when I walked over there, about 2:30 in the morning, I was like, "Oh, I get it. it all makes sense a little bit now." That's hilarious because I was not supposed to go there, but you mentioned Waffle House, and I was like, "Let me tell y'all, that was trash." I'm almost positive that they ran out of hash brown originally.
oh yeah.
And they went to the Dollar Tree. I'm almost positive, dog, because I tasted these and was like, first of all, these are frostbitten. Like I can taste it. I said, yeah, I'm never coming back here again. By the way, Whataburger didn't let me down in Georgia, so
They opened one in Vegas, Whataburger.
yeah, I know, brother, and I haven't been yet.
I'm gonna have to try that.
You've never?
I've never been.
All right, add that to the list. That's 3 things. Add it to the list. But speaking of adding it to the list, let's add a 4th meeting for Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Somebody got to get over the hump against Pat, right?
Right, and I mean, you feel like this year the Chiefs might not be at their sharpest. Maybe you could have said that last year, but yeah, I guess it's kind of similar to Lamar a little bit. That mental hurdle of performing in the big game. If you're the Bills, there's all this history and the thing about the Chiefs getting the break or leaving too much time on the clock and letting them, and they were able to score, and you just feel like Allen's the MVP favorite. This is probably as good of a chance as he might have to beating the Chiefs.
And I'm gonna be honest. I feel like this is the year that they do it.
Yeah,
I'm leaning towards Buffalo. I think Pat being Pat makes it a game. I think what ultimately happens, I think Buffalo has a lead. Let's say it's 10 points. I think Buffalo has a lead. I think Pat has another. They put up that graphic, right? Nobody has more 4th quarter comeback, overtime comeback. You have that graphic. And I think he starts it and everybody goes, "All right, here it comes. And I think he falls short. And I think it's one of those, like when Undertaker lost the streak, everybody kind of looks around first before they react. I think it's over. And I think ultimately whatever happens, right? But I can't just beat the feeling that I have. And I try my best. I don't know how you are with your gut feelings. But I try to balance my gut feeling with my analytical brain. Because like the truth is probably going to fall somewhere in the middle. I have the worst feeling that this is going to be Josh Allen's Super Bowl. And what I mean by that is everybody is going to overreact that he beat Pat. And I think Buffalo doesn't show up in the Super Bowl. I'm not talking about like a 38-6 type game, but I see them just being uncharacteristic in the Super Bowl. And if that's the case, that means the Super Bowl may be headed to the NFC East because we know what we have on the NFC side already. We have Philadelphia. We have Washington. Before you break that one down, I wanted you to address the AFC Championship. Who do you have taking it?
I'll take the Bills. I think you made a good point about look at about Josh Allen. looking at the Bills, they weren't, they lost guys, maybe weren't expected to be as dominant as they were, and they're in this position. So, Josh kind of has that understanding now, like how you pointed out, that he can beat you in different ways. He doesn't have to throw so much. He can beat you with your legs, be that dynamic runner. And, I feel like it's good. It's going to be close enough. And I feel like, Buffalo's and Josh Allen, they'll make enough plays there to win that game.
So here, all right. There are some franchises that are snake bitten, right? And there are some that I think we overreact to. I remember asking my dad about Buffalo and what he kind of how he envisioned them, right? And he kind of laughed and he said, I got to be honest with you. He said, by the time they got to the third one, he said, I was rooting for him. He said, at a certain point, like, you almost rather not get there, right? And just from that standpoint, respectfully speaking, we're close in terms of proximity in age. We don't have very many positive Buffalo stories, right?
Right.
I could see this being our version of it, where you couldn't get past Pat. You couldn't get past Pat. You couldn't get past Pat. Let's just say this year he unlocks something. And he sees Pat 3 more times in the postseason in the next 5 years, and he beats him every single time. What if Josh still doesn't have a ring? That's the gut feeling that I can't shake right now. I said it a long time ago. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. I said this when we were at UNLV. What bothers me most is not only will one of those guys, maybe both, retire with 1 ring, they're going to retire with 1 appearance. Mm-hmm. And that should freak everybody out. And nobody cared. Nobody cared when I said it. Do you care now that both of them did? So respectfully speaking, I called my dad when Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals lost the Super Bowl. I said, he'll be back. And then I sat there. I said, hey, dog, everybody can't go. And he was like, what you mean? I said, you think Joe will be back? Yeah, I do. You think Lamar going to 1? I do. You think Josh going to 1? And he stopped. You think Herbert going to 1? You think Tua's ever going to 1? You think Trevor Lawrence is ever going to 1? Let's just start going through names. You think Jalen's going to another one? Everybody can't go. Mm-hmm. Somebody will not go. Like, now we're getting to the point to where it's not just those 6 quarterbacks, the Big Bens, the Paytons, the Bradys, the Aarons, the Drews, the Phillip Rivers. That's the 6. Like I told my dad, we're blessed in this generation. We got about 13 that we're going to have to figure out. You think Jared Goff ever going to another one? What happens if Jaden goes to this one? Those are the conversations we have to have now. Lamar may never go to 1. Josh may never go to 1. These are the things that I think we truthfully need to start having. Jordan Love, right? One of the better young quarterbacks, may never go to 1. Remember how high everybody was on Trey Lance 5 years ago? He may never sniff 1. Like, just from that perspective, like I keep telling my dad, I know we had these conversations about quarterbacks. We're going to have some great quarterbacks that we look back on and be like, damn, he never went to 1? No. Washington and Philly. At this point, I said Philly would lose to the Rams. So at this point, I got to be over it, right? Hard to bet against Saquon. I also think that if we believe in poetic justice, if we believe in sports writing itself, the fact that the Giants had a Hard Knocks this year is amazing. Mm-hmm. Your son tells you to trade up and go draft Jaden Daniels, and you let Saquon walk. Philly winning the Super Bowl or Washington winning the Super Bowl just makes New York even sicker.
Yeah, and you feel like mentioned, franchises that are snake bitten. The Giants, right? If
They might be the worst.
they might be, and you might be looking at no matter what happens at Dallas, and you've got Philadelphia stays on this track, and so does Washington. You'll probably be the fourth best team in that division for 5-10 years, maybe longer. But yeah, I mean, just going back to Philadelphia, right, and Washington. How can you bet against Saquon Barkley? I mean, right now, how can you bet against Jaden Daniels? I mean, just kind of it's kind of like he's kind of got this kind of quiet confidence about him. And you heard him talk. Saw the clip of him talking to Tom Brady after the game, right? You hear that about him, but it's also with this kind of and this fearlessness where he doesn't know, he's never been in this experience before, but he's just gonna stick to what he does best, and he's got a good staff and everyone around him. So I mean, it's gonna be I feel like I'll expect Jaden Daniels to make plays, and Saquon's gonna have some plays, but I feel like it's gonna come down to Jalen Hurts. How well does he play? Can he make some passes? Can he how well does he play? I feel like if he's on it and helping the Eagles move the ball, they might be tough to beat in their home crowd.
You want to know the only fear I have?
Mhm.
I don't know if I can initially, like, when you think about the Washington defense, do any run stoppers come to mind?
No.
That's scary.
Mhm.
That's scary. You may think of a run of a run stopper on a particular defense, and it doesn't matter. So now I'm in a situation where I'm thinking that it's going to be stop Saquon by committee. I don't think you're going to stop Saquon. And if that's the case, then Philly goes to the Super Bowl. And the thing with Jaden, I mentioned it before. I guess we'll figure it out very, very shortly. That I was super high on Russell Wilson when he came out of college, right? And the funny thing was, I remember lobbying for him to be Heisman that year. And the only reason why I kept pushing the campaign is because I was like, guys, RG3 is going to get it. Like, we all know RG3 is going to get it. But y'all not paying enough attention to this other guy. And I remember my teacher came out, and we were in class one day. So I had a substitute teacher, but like a long-term sub. They knew I wrote for the paper. He pulls out his newspaper, and he goes, "You're the sports guy." He said, "Circle a name for me." And I looked. It was the draft recap. I said, "Oh, this is easy." And I circled Russ. I said, "You know what's funny?" He said, "What?" I said, "Andrew obviously was going to go first. Everybody knew that." I said, "Everybody felt like RG3 had the better college season amongst every college football player specifically, but especially in terms of quarterbacks, right?" I pointed at Russ' names after I circled it. I said, "I bet you he wins a ring before both of them." Every time I watch Jaden Daniel drop back for a pass, I think back to those teammates cleaning out his locker at Arizona State. Now I have to go do research and see what those young men are doing. I hope they're playing, because Jaden is a win away from the Super Bowl. You're probably going to watch it. Again, talking about poetic justice, this is somebody who never said a negative word after that. And Alex, you know me. I would have responded.
Mhm.
He didn't. He kept the main thing the main thing. From that perspective, I said it 2 weeks ago. I don't know that we're not in the middle of a Russell Wilson type run by a rookie.
Right. I mean, just I'm actually just looking up that video, them taking apart his locker room after he left.
He won a
right?
Heisman after he left.
He did, yeah, and he's one win away from the Super Bowl. I guess that just speaks to that type of competitor, that type of person you need to be as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, to where college kids, college teammates just messing around after you leave, and obviously it's part of college now, the transfer portal,
Yeah.
and leaving and all that, and it just kind of says a lot to not let that bother you. And I guess that's kind of you kind of see that character and kind of how he's playing this, how he's played this year and handled everything that's been thrown at him.
Washington or Philly?
I'm gonna take Washington.
Give me the score. I like that.
I'll go Washington 34, Philadelphia 27.
So I got Philly.
Mhm.
You said 34-27?
Yeah.
Mine's is a touchdown too, but it's 35-28.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of. I think Buffalo and KC is high scoring from the jump.
Mhm.
I think this one there's a filling out process, and I want to say the fourth quarter, but I think third, maybe fourth quarter, sometime in the second half, I think we're going to get a bunch of traded scores.
Mhm.
I could see Washington going out there scoring in 5 plays. I could see Philly going out there and Saquon breaks the second one. I could see a couple of back and forth moments. So I think it'll be pretty high scoring. I got 35-28. I do have Philly. If Saquon rushes for 200 yards again, we got to have a real conversation. And the only reason why we got to have a real conversation is because it's going to force everybody. It should force everybody to go back and look at his time in New York. Because my dad and I had an argument, and we still have this argument. And now we're going to drag you into the argument. I think I've dragged you before, but let's do it again really quick. Hopefully you don't have a cop out and you don't have both of them in your top 5. Who makes your top 5 running backs? LaDainian Tomlinson or AP?
Ooh, that's a good
Adrian
question.
Peterson. I've been taught. We've both been taught in this field. We got to say like first name first. Radio is a little different. If you don't know AP when I'm talking about running backs, cut the show off.
Probably you would say, Adrian Peterson for sure.
And I know my dad is somewhere smiling right now listening to this show because that's first of all, I'm a Packer fan, right? I grew up a Packer fan, so I know what AP did. I know certain games, like, we're not going to stop AP. It's just going to let him do whatever he does, and let's hope that they don't throw for an extra 200. Let's leave it where it is. I told my dad, this is where I have to kind of remove my emotions from it and just look at it as cleanly as I can, in my opinion. There's highlights of both of those guys rushing for touchdowns. There's highlights of both of those guys catching touchdowns. There's only highlights of one of those guys throwing them. And that's LT. My dad, the way that he's a Laker fan, the way that he views the Clippers, he has always viewed the Chargers that way. And I used to tell him, I don't think you watched LT enough to say that. Like, even if you pick AP, that's cool. You answer too quickly for me. And that's always our argument because LT makes my top 5. If that's the case, AP got to move. Sorry. That's the conversation I think we need to have about Saquon after this year. If he rushes for, let's just say he rushes for another 200 against Washington.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be some people that was like, well, yeah, I heard he was killing stuff in New York. Oh, well, I heard he was great in New York. Go back and look at what he did without an offensive line.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. This conversation about re-ranking these running backs, we might have to have a different conversation about it. I'll give you guys an update really quick. We are what? Don't lie to me. Okay. We are headed to the second period here in Vegas. As a matter of fact, Isaiah Torres is at the Fortress right now at the T-Mobile Arena watching St. Louis and the Vegas Golden Knights. A week ago, I believe it was a week ago, I came in here and I told you guys Aiden Hill gave up a score in, I think, the first 3 shots that he faced. Maybe 2 in the first 3, something crazy like that. And then the rest of the game, I think he saw 15 shots the rest of the game. And I said, as long as this defense is playing connected like that, Aiden doesn't have anything to worry about. I just want to inform you guys, Aiden Hill saw 16 shots in that first period. Vegas might be lucky to be down 2-1. I'm not even watching this game right now. I have no idea what it looks like, but it sounds like you're lucky to be down 1.
Yeah, I mean that just goes into, you know, the puck luck of hockey. I mean, if you're getting off a lot of shots, you know, eventually, I mean, you might get one or two good off games, but eventually, you're gonna give up goals. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not watching it either, but it sounds like it's Vegas has to be going into this second and third period trying to shore things up on defense.
And it doesn't help that you've lost 3 straight games coming in,
Yeah.
right? You had a winless road trip. Now you're tied for first. First of all, you went into that road trip, pardon, one of the top 2 teams in the league, one of the top 3 teams in the league. There was a period earlier last week where you were the best team in the league.
Mhm.
And now you have this stretch, right? And the funny thing is, we've been waiting for this stretch. And I was actually talking to somebody recently, and she was like, yeah, I know, but like the team is slack. No, don't worry about it. And she kind of looked at me. I said, the calendar flipped. She said, what do you mean? They went through the first 3 months of the season without this. This is coming. This is going to happen to every team at one point, unless you have one of those all-time historic teams.
Mhm.
This is going to happen to every team at some point. You play 82 of these. This is going to happen. I said, what I always looked, because we talked, I think you and I specifically talked about it twice on here. We expected them to be good. We got to early November and was like, all right, they've started off kind of fast. Okay, they can't win on the road. Okay, they fixed it. You look around Christmas time. Oh, all right, well, started the new year. They're the best team in the league. They've passed the early benchmarks. Like 90% of them they've passed. The fact that this made it to 2025, this team is fine. This, unfortunately, Vegas might not like to hear this. I think they could lose today and still be fine.
You're right. It's January 20th, and it's a long way to the playoffs. I mean, if
Got a break coming up.
yeah, got the All-Star break coming up. Still got a lot of games against, quality opponents too, and that they could, right, as you mentioned, just, they'll have a hot stretch here coming up, probably. And I mean, I guess the only concern is if maybe a stretch like this if it extends and then it kind of creeps its way back in late March come playoff time. I mean, that's the only thing, but you could think about. But I guess Ricky said, I'm not worried about this, necessarily either being in January. I guess the only thing that I think about obviously with this team is just how healthy are they going into the playoffs, because I feel like that's going to be a indicator for how they could fare.
Complete sidebar, and guys, Alex and I have been having so much fun on this show. I was supposed to get to UNLV basketball a minute ago, but I went ahead and skipped around and I went to the Golden Knights. But we had a conversation back when we were in college in a newsroom, and we had a conversation about like rewatching interviews or something. And I told you that I used to watch Breakfast Club interviews, and then it went to like Joe Budden podcast, and then you went to different podcasts and stuff, right? I had a moment recently, maybe 3 days ago. I just went back and watched all of Gil's Arena. I don't know why. I just went back and just started watching all of them. And I'm gonna bring it up to you really quick. They had a conversation a long time ago about is the best player, or should the best player on the team be your leader? And you kind of know where I'm going with this, considering that we're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights. You talked about health going into the postseason. Anytime Mark Stone goes down, you feel this entire city collectively hold their breath until he's back.
Right.
Is Mark Stone the best player on that team? No. That's your leader, though.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously Mark Stone, he wears the C for a reason. I remember this one time, the Golden Knights Twitter is like expressive Mark Stone, and it was his first game back after one of his back injury a couple years ago, and he scored, and he just throws himself into the board, and it's just kind of like, ooh, don't do that, don't hurt yourself again. But I don't think your best player needs to necessarily be your leader. I guess it just obviously just depends on the dynamic of the team, and you feel like with the Golden Knights, right? Like, Mark Stone doesn't appear to be the guy that he needs to always have the puck. He needs to always be scoring. He could, let other guys do that, right? He can let the defense shine. He can let the other line shine, and he'll just be that leader, because there's so many ways you can lead. And looking at the Golden Knights, I don't think that necessarily needs to be the case. But when Mark Stone's healthy and playing, that just adds something else to the team for sure.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, and like a couple other examples came to mind. I thought about the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bosa is the best player on that defense, right?
Yeah.
Fred Warner's the leader.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
I think back to, and the funny thing is, that's what I started to just think. Trent Williams, in terms of best player,
mm-hmm.
you probably wouldn't say his name, right? Because of, he's a tackle. Like, who's going to say that a tackle was your best player?
Mm-hmm.
Is Brock Clean at the end of this game? That might be your best player.
Yeah.
That also might be your leader. That might be one situation. Now, granted, to Gil's Arena's defense, the entire group, we haven't named a basketball team yet.
Yeah.
So the one that is interesting would probably be the Warriors.
Uh-huh.
Would you consider Draymond the leader and Steph the best player? Would you consider Anthony Edwards the leader and Cat the best player originally? What? I don't know. Like, now, those are like the only two that maybe you could think about. But the one that would come to mind for me, and even D Wade said that he gave him the keys, right? But LeBron said every time D Wade spoke in Miami, we all listened. This was the house that he built.
Mm-hmm.
This is Wade County.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a prime example of somebody that your leader isn't your best player. He said it. Brian, we need you to take us there. I mean, we all know that this is mine, though.
Right.
Just a little sidebar. I woke up this morning and was watching Gil's Arena, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bring this up now. But yeah, man, as of right now, it's 2-1. We have just under 15 minutes left in the second period. The Knights looking to end a 3-game losing streak. As of right now, I want to give you guys a record. They are 29-14-3 on the year. That is an identical record with your Edmonton Oilers. Both teams have 61 points on the year. Now we talk basketball. I think we have basketball for the rest of the show. We got college, and then we have, I wanted to end with some NBA because I didn't get to do it on Thursday. So, and apologies for the Thursday show, guys. Had a technical difficulty with my card. Got into the building, got to the door, and John turned red on me. And I was like, okay. So it's about to be 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. This ain't going to work. But we are working on kind of like backup plans for if that were to happen again moving forward. Don't want to start season 7 off like that. So do want to apologize to you guys for that. But for the first time in maybe 3 weeks, we're starting UNLV basketball talk with the men's side.
That's right. The men with a is this the biggest week of Kevin Kruger's career?
Ooh, that's
if you want to take away the NIT, because that's obviously postseason play, but is this the biggest week Kevin Kruger's had in his time being the UNLV coach?
That's a great question. Damn. I kind of want to cop out. I want to be like, can I text you the answer Tuesday? Right offhand, I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Only reason why is because I can't think back to it at this second, but Kruger Kruger had a ranked win in every season of his coaching career until this season. And we said after the non-conference slate, like, you're probably going to get another one with San Diego State. You might get another one with San Diego State, but you know that you're going to get one with either Utah State or New Mexico. At some point, you're going to get one more shot probably. Do you take advantage of it? Kevin Kruger and his group finally takes advantage of it this season. They get their ranked win, right? That was their fourth ranked game. So you're 1-3 against ranked teams this year. And that one was one of those that we talked about it before. I talked about Northwestern. I didn't feel like they had a shot. No disrespect to the team. Watching that game, it never felt like they were going to win. I watched that Utah State game and said, this is it. What I've been calling it all year is the Kruger catch game. He catches one of y'all every year. It never fails.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to go back and add more stock to your point, to follow that up with a win against San Diego State, but the first win in San Diego since the COVID year in 2020, I'll say this because I don't have the exact answer for you. It's definitely number 2, or it's definitely top 2.
Yeah,
without question, it's top 2.
Right.
The problem is, whatever other week I'm thinking about, you followed that up with losing to Air Force, probably.
Right.
Like you followed it up with like a loss on the road at Moby Arena. I don't know.
Right. And just, thinking that because there's coming off 2 blowout losses, and you're in the middle of this kind of gauntlet where you're playing the better Mountain West teams, and it's like, could these 2 more losses be what causes the wheels to come off and everything just kind of falls apart after that? And then you think about if they lose those 2 games, how does the rest of the year look? How does this offseason look with the decision of keeping Kevin Kruger or moving on, right? But yeah, I mean, for me, you mentioned the Kevin catch game, right, where they play a team that's better than them, a ranked team, and they win, and it's kind of like in both of those games, I was watching, I'm like, all right, I kind of have that doubt, like, when are they gonna mess up?
That was the San Diego State game for me.
I had that feeling there too, right? I was like, when's there's going to be the turnover? When's San Diego State going to go on this run? Or when are they going to lock down UNLV? Obviously, to UNLV's credit and to Kevin's credit, they found a way to win. They kept San Diego State. I know a San Diego State team that's kind of rebuilding a little bit with a lot of newer guys after losing some guys,
Mm-hmm.
but still a road win in a place that they haven't won a lot. So it's definitely you look at this team, and we kind of talked about how it's Mountain West tournament or bust, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, does that give you any much more confidence? Does it change how you felt about this team going in, as opposed to a couple weeks ago?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
It does provide me with the belief that this team can beat anybody in this conference any given night.
Mm-hmm.
It does give me that realization. Based on everything I've heard and been told over last season and this season, and this is where it gets uncomfortable a little bit. These last 2 wins, as great as they've been for the program, they haven't changed what I've said that the word is around Kevin Kruger. And I'm sure you kind of alluded to it just now. We've been told if Kevin Kruger doesn't win the Mountain West tournament, this could be it. I'm not saying that a decision is in, right? Oh, Kevin's getting fired. I'm not saying that. But we have kind of been given the benchmark. Now, we've had this conversation when I originally said it last week. I don't know what happens if Kevin makes it to the title game and loses. Maybe now you rethink it. Maybe you give him one more year. Maybe you give him a probation type year where we need to see how this looks throughout the year. Nothing has changed in my phone after these last 2 wins. And this is where I'll just be honest with you guys, because I tell you guys all the time, part of this career and in this field that we chose, there have been a lot of times that I'm right. Plain and simple. There's a lot of times that Alex is right, and we'll sit there and text each other, and we'll have little snarky things to say, like at the peak, right? And we have these moments where we're right, and we know that we're right, or we're waiting for it to be proven right. And then you have moments where you're wrong. And I feel like a lot of times journalists lose credibility by not admitting when you're wrong. I said last week that first of all, I said the San Diego State team was not good this year. But I said the San Diego State team is still led by Brian Dutcher. If they hold UNLV under 45 points, it wouldn't shock me. I see this team hold team scoreless for like 7-minute stretches. To UNLV's credit, it didn't happen. And bigger than that, too, I want to talk about the recent history. UNLV has beaten San Diego State each of the last 3 seasons. 2 seasons. Am I wrong? Back-to-back seasons. Back-to-back seasons. You beat them at home last year when they were at 19, and then you beat them this year. I think it's 3 in the last 4 seasons or something like that. That was the number. I know it's a 3 somewhere. And then I want to couple it with DJ Thomas scores or assists on 10 of your last 11 points against San Diego State. He hits possibly the biggest shot of the night against Utah State. I know that I keep asking Kevin Kruger about his maturation process and how fast he's growing, how quickly he's growing. I'm not sure how much he grew up in those last 2 games. That looks like a different player in these last 2 games. When things aren't going right early against Utah State, or excuse me, against San Diego State, toward the end, the switch is hit. Now, maybe he hit the switch a little too early against Memphis. Last 10 minutes, we're doubling you. We're getting the ball out of your hand. I don't care what you do, you're not beating us, right? That's a different player from Memphis to San Diego State alone. We're not even talking about last year. So I have no problem coming, and I said that Utah State game is going to get ugly. Y'all know how I feel about Utah State this year. And not to sound like that, even them losing to UNLV didn't change much for me. I still think Utah State is Utah State. But to UNLV's credit, once again, they did it. For anybody wondering why I said that nothing has changed on my phone, one of the reasons why is probably because let UNLV go home on the second day of the tournament. Back at square one.
It's been 2014.
Patty.
It was the last time they made the semifinals of the Mountain West tournament. That tournament's been at their home court. There's been some bad one-bid Mountain West teams. There's been UNLV teams that have been, riding hot coming into the tournament and, can't get to the semifinal. Not win a semifinal, get to a semifinal. And you mentioned, ask you Tuesday night, right? Because you got a Wyoming team that, based on how the last 2 games went, you should beat Wyoming. But you just don't know in this conference where you win at San Diego State, then you lose at Air Force. That's happened. It was Air Force last year, and then 2 years ago, end of the regular season, it was Utah State where they
I forgot about
they
that.
made a ton of threes in the first half, and it was not pretty. And there's always those.
There was the Isaiah Stevens game. We shouldn't do this on a positive week for this program. I feel like we're just conjuring up negative spirits, right? But the sad thing is, you feel them. Like the win against San Diego State, I'm going to be honest, people reacted to the Utah State win. Of course, they're a ranked team. Nobody reacted, aside from the program, nobody reacted for the most part to the San Diego State win. And I was like, hey, first of all, it's hard as hell to win there. B, it's coming, and I just did 1 and 2 with my fingers, whatever. And B, this is coming off of the Utah State game. Like you said, I'm more worried about tomorrow night. 8 p.m. at the Thomas and Mack, I'll be there. You're welcoming in Wyoming. Let's say UNLV is up 2 at halftime. Wyoming's in the locker room like, we're good. We're in a good spot right now. I don't know if they win tomorrow night, but as of right now, this team is riding high as of right now, they're tied for 3rd with Colorado State. We just mentioned the Rams a second ago when mentioning Isaiah Stevens. 5-2 record in the Mountain West, right? Started 3-0, lose those back-to-back games in ugly fashion. You pick up 2 big wins. You're now 11-7 overall. You're still looking up at Utah State and New Mexico.
Yeah, but we talk about the Mountain West, right? Last year was a historic year, and I come down a little bit, and UNLV could be in a spot where they play themselves into a 3 seed.
Yeah.
And you get that maybe a little bit easier path, right? Or if you get a 4 or 5 matchup that's evenly matched, right? And still plenty of time for UNLV to prove itself. So we'll just see how the rest of the season goes. Want to give a shout out to you mentioned DJ Thomas. My colleague Califin might have a story about DJ coming out tomorrow, so keep an eye on that in the RJ about DJ and his progression. He's like you mentioned, talk about last year being last year and being last year should have been his senior year of high school, right? Yeah. And he's just been a guy that they've asked a lot from him. I know you've talked about it. I felt the same way that maybe that first year it would have been hard to see this team having success if DJ needed to be the leading scorer. He needed to do all sorts of things. But we'll see how the rest of this process plays out for UNLV. It's they're not out of it.
Yeah. No, definitely. They're not out of it, and more so, they're very much so in it, right? Going back to that DJ point, I absolutely feel that way because you could tell by the way he plays, he's a pass first guard. I want to give you guys the ball. I want to set you guys up, right? Sidebar. Do not overreact to Bear Cherry's numbers recently in the Mountain West. Now, I told that story about getting a transfer over at Westchester High School, and then once league play started, we were like, okay, this might be a culture shock, right? Coming over from San Diego, now you got Fairfax twice a year. This looks different. Like this looks a little different. These elbows feel a little different. It took. I was talking about Zach, right? It took Zach a little bit to get used to everything. I do not think it's the exact anything close to the same thing with Bear. If you watch Bear Cherry from earlier this season and watch Bear Cherry now, Bear Cherry is not healthy and has not been healthy. I'm watching Bear Cherry take 5 shots a game. This the same dude that started almost every game in non-conference 4 for 4. Bear Cherry is not healthy. That's it. We knew about the broken finger. Again, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot that we don't know about in terms of Bear, but he's not healthy. I don't think you'll ever hear about it. Rob going down for the season is probably why Bear can't come out of the starting lineup and why they haven't said anything. But I do think that is something to watch because in order for this team to go to that next level, you need that second scorer, right? So let's just say they do commit everything to DJ. Julian Richmond, can you knock down enough shots? Jaden Henley is probably going to be the scorer, right? Jalen Bedford, are we fully taking you off the leash? Like, if we need you in this second unit to put up 20 points, he's proven that he can do it, right? So I'm interested to see where that goes. We'll get to the Lady Rebels in 1 second. I don't know if you have the Knights game still up, but as soon as we hopped off of the Knights game, St. Louis scored again.
Oh, wow.
So it was 3-1 briefly, and then the Knights just got back on the board. I do want to tell you guys who has scored for the Knights if I can. Tomas Hurdle scored on a power play in the first period, and Brett Howden just picked up goal number 16 on the year. And now it is 3-2 with just under 8:15 to go in that second period, rather. Two more topics, both basketball. Then we got my dad's tipping to get to. The Lady Rebels. Shout out to Jesse Merrick one more time, really quick for I think he opened up the press conference with McKenna Brackens and Alyssa Brown, and he also opened it up, I think, against or with Lindy LaRock. And I think the first question was something along the lines of like, this team hasn't really been in very many overtime battles, and especially in conference play, whatever. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I feel like I can only say this point by mentioning the men's team. This is why I think energy around the men's team is what it is. If UNLV, and you talked about it a second ago, UNLV just in terms of aesthetics, right? Let's just say UNLV doesn't make it to the semifinals, whatever. Just in terms of aesthetics right now, you got to beat Wyoming by 10 points. Just so it doesn't look like you had a fluke of a week. Because we saw, when I say we, meaning the entire conference saw, okay, you didn't just lose to Boise State. Okay. You didn't just lose to, who was it, Colorado State?
Yeah.
Am I blanking? It's Colorado State. You didn't just lose to Colorado State. It got ugly. If you barely beat Wyoming coming off of this past week, it looks away. Now, fast forward to the answers that Jesse got. You listen to this program, and yes, it was a 1 versus a 3. You listen to this program, and they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, our attention to detail. We know Allison Furtick. She's quick with the ball. So we wanted to kind of dig at her, get her to get the ball out of her hands." They taught the same way against Air Force. They taught the same way against San Diego State, against New Mexico, against Boise State. Their temperament never changes. And every time I hear anybody in that group talk, even McKenna Brackens, her interview yesterday was vastly different from what her first interview with us was. A lot more open, right? But there's a confidence that comes with it. There's an aura that comes with it. We're on to the next. We got another one. We got this one next. We got to go on a 2-game road trip. We got Fresno next. I feel like sometimes we're having championship celebrations in season for the men's team. This women's team just beat Wyoming 72-71. All they could talk about after the game was, what's next?
That's right. I mean, not just has this team been in Mountain West championship games where they're, it may be in close games and all that, but you're right. I mean, the regular season for them, especially come Mountain West play, is kind of, everything matters a little bit more because of what the conference is, right? It's a one bid conference.
Absolutely.
So when you play an Air Force, when you play a Fresno State, when you play a San Diego State, and you lose, it can matter a little more because if you have to play them again in the tournament, and you get upset in the tournament, and you're like, could we get out large? We're gonna have to rely on a committee to get them in. But I think that just kind of speaks to Lindy and her staff just doing everything they can to get the team prepared for these type of games and just kind of being straightforward about how they're the standard in the conference and everyone's going to come. So that's every game is kind of like their other opponent's, championship game, whereas like if we want to win the Mountain West, we got to show that we could beat UNLV. And it went up to 51 now, right? 51 straight. 50. What is it? Damn. 51 wins in their last 52.
Okay. In the conference. And I think, it was at home, so it doesn't matter about the road wins. But I think we're up to 23 straight Mountain West road wins, something ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
I do know this. The energy came over me, and I just tweeted it. I didn't want to tweet it originally because I felt like more needed to be said about it. But we can get into the specifics of the win in 1 second if you want. But I tweeted that the Lady Rebels are one of the best programs that I've ever been around. And the reason why I didn't want to tweet it is because there's so much more that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
But I listed a couple of them. Let's go. I was gonna go with people that didn't make the list yet, but let's go ahead and do this. First, I said Cerritos College women's soccer. They won state when I left. I think they won state titles 5 straight years. When I left, I think they were on number 5. When I was around that program, it's almost as if because the coaching staff was almost like a core. That was the core.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it didn't matter who they had. I do want to add a little caveat because supposedly UNLV. Or not UNLV, Cerritos College had somebody on their roster that final year that I was there. Apparently, she played professionally in Mexico. So whether paperwork didn't get through, whether paperwork didn't, whatever, that's the one thing that I look back to that program and now I go, okay, maybe all of this is in question now, right? But it appeared that it didn't matter who was on the field. I had the Lady Rebels at second in the midst of this run because I've watched this program and this team reinvent itself year after year. Desi is and was who she is and was, right? You still have to fill in every piece around her. Knowing that Desi is leaving as one of the best players in program history, you hand the keys over to Kiera Jackson, and now that Marvin Menzies-esque paint touch, it's a paint touch now every 3 possessions. Maybe sometimes every 5 possessions. She's running a different offense. And then you realize that KJ is one of the best players in the country, male or female, in assist to turnover ratio. So just from the outside looking in, that's possibly 2 players that shared the same roster that may have their numbers up when it's all said and done. Desi's number is going up.
Mm-hmm.
Desi Ray Young will have her jersey retired. Kiera Jackson possibly might have it retired. Go into the program, right? Go into the Cox Pavilion rather and look up. You'll see 2 jerseys retired.
Mm-hmm.
I just named 2 that might have played on the same team.
Right.
And then let's fast forward to Amarachi Kempson. Wyatt told me that she had 500 points. It went in one ear, not the other. About 15 seconds later, I just looked at him. What'd you just say? And he said what he said. I said she's in the midst of her sophomore year. She's not even done with it. So let's just say she spends all 4 years here at UNLV. Am I to believe that Amarachi's jersey isn't going up? So that's why they're one of the top 2 programs or one of the top 2 entities I've ever been around, right? And then number 3 is Westchester basketball. If you know anything about California sports, especially high school hoops, I felt like Westchester that's my Packers, like growing up, right? People would ask me, hey, who do you think is going to the Super Bowl? I never would give them an answer because I feel like my team has a legit shot. Westchester gave us a shot every year. And then just in terms of honorable mention, I mentioned the Las Vegas Aces and I mentioned Cerritos College Football. Cerritos College Football was the first competent football program that I was around. So definitely big up to Coach Mazzota for that. And then the Aces. Not gonna lie, I've witnessed a complete change since Mark Davis has built the team, has bought the team rather. You know, I thought about it this morning and I was like, I expected Vegas Golden Knight fans to kind of beat my door down a little bit about it, but I think Vegas panics too quickly for me. I think the Golden Knights panic a little bit, and thus some of their decision making. But that was just kind of the caveat that I wanted to give you guys, just in terms of best programs that I've been around. You want to give me maybe 2 or 3 that come to mind for you? I know you've been around some crazy programs. You've been around Gorman.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great. Well, first that comes into my mind right now is Centennial girls basketball with Karen White's 14 state championships. She's also coaching the boys.
I listened to you last time. See, I listened.
And they're both those teams are number 1 in our high school basketball rankings, and they both have a good shot to potentially win a state title. And she's also approaching 800 career high school wins. So
that's incredible.
So that's a crazy, incredible accomplishment, especially at a public school with Centennial.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2, and then be Bishop Gorman football. It's a different animal compared to any other football team, any other sports team.
Didn't I text you when I went to that game?
Yeah,
I texted you and was like, I get it.
Yeah,
because I never went. I stepped on that football field. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay. I forgot I was at a high school game for a second.
Yeah, I mean it's run like a college. It's got it's great facility.
It looks better than Cerritos College. It does.
It probably is better. It probably was better than what UNLV used to have before the Fertitta football complex.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Thinking off the top of my head, those are the two main ones, the two main dynasties. I was around Coronado boys soccer this year. They were 28-0 state champions. They broke, I think, 8 state records this year. Pretty incredible what they did. But that's I mean, you just think about those two programs, Centennial girls basketball and Bishop Gorman football. It goes right to coaching. Karen White's Centennial and Brent Browner at Bishop Gorman, and they
and I told you Gorman crossed state lines. I was hearing about Gorman when I was at Westchester, and I was like, who are they? Who are they? Why do we keep talking about them? Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, these are in conversations where we're mentioning St. John Bosco and Mater Dei, and I'm like, who is Bishop Gorman? And then I was introduced to Tony Sanchez, and yeah man, I learned a little bit from there. It's hard to. Oh, and by the way, too, I didn't mention this when I mentioned her name. Amarachi Kempson, 8 points through the first 3 quarters. Mm-hmm. I lied, 10 points through the first 3 quarters. She had 12 in the fourth. She goes down, and she's not this person. She goes down, and she goes to go get up, and she's on hands and knees. The play is in front of her. And I'm looking at her. She's right in front of me, and I'm looking at her. And I just slowly nod. And I said, this is where things start to fall apart. Players get injured, right? Mm-hmm. The visual is everything. She was on hands and knees and couldn't move. And then she sat back directly down. As soon as the trainer came out, she went straight to her back. She said, it's my back. They get their conversation going. I see them on the massage table trying to work her out. The team doesn't miss a beat. We talk about what DJ was able to do with the men's side. Kiera Jackson, I think Lindy has said this 3 separate times to me. One time at Boise, this last time, and I can't think of the other one. But she said it. I was like, how did this team do this? Basically tonight, whatever. She was like, KJ willed us to a win. Mm-hmm. Sometimes seniors just have that will where they're just like, nah. Not losing tonight. Yeah. And she continues to have those nights. And Kiera Jackson hit the big shot at the end of regulation to tie the game up at 67. She missed the 3 at the buzzer, but had her fingerprints all over the overtime session. Ends up getting that win, ends up getting the 1-point win. The team stays perfect in the Mountain West, 7-0, 15-4 overall with 8 straight wins. I guess maybe I'll tell you guys, if you guys need to hear it, that they are first in the Mountain West. I don't know if you guys need to hear it, but now they got 2 road games coming up. They are headed to Fresno State first. That game is on Wednesday. I didn't write down the time for whatever reason, but I believe it's 5 p.m. on Wednesday from Save Mart Center. Just another quick update really quick about your Knights before we get to the last topic of the show. Still 3-2, less than a minute left in the second period. Do I have the numbers on Aiden really quick? Do I have Aiden's numbers? I do. Aiden has a save percentage of 0.850. That's 17 saves. We talked about the defense earlier, right? You give up 16 shots in that first period. What are we up to? 4? Mm-hmm. 4 in the second. So definitely a different look for this group so far. I'm gonna have to go home and definitely race to go watch this game. Right on cue. It's a St. Louis power play. Mm-hmm. So Vegas is down a man with 40 seconds left. We'll see if they're able to keep the deficit 1 heading into the second intermission. So I don't think you've done a Thursday show with me yet. Have you?
No.
You got to do that. Okay. So for the company, I used to do an NBA roundup, right? And as part of the NBA roundup, every week we would just take 3-4 different storylines from around the league, and pretty much what we did with Club Sports. Pretty much that. So it's like a chapterized story. Steph Curry and Draymond leading the Warriors, whatever. That gets 3 paragraphs or something, right? So over the last 2 years or so, I've been wanting to kind of divvy it up, and I want to switch it up. So I'm like, how can I still cater to our NBA audience until Vegas gets a team? Because once Vegas gets a team, we'll be covering the team. There will be no need for an NBA roundup, right? I said, I'm gonna move it to the Thursday show. Move it to the Thursday show, and we can get our conversation going based on that. So I got 3 topics for you. We can run through them. What I typically do, I'll let you start one. I'll start one, and then obviously one of us will get the third one. I call this one.
Okay.
You can tell me which order we do it in, but I have Scoot is scooting. That one's mine.
Okay.
I have Harden has only missed 1 game, and I have top 2 teams in the league, part 2, and obviously that would be OKC versus Cleveland. This time in OKC.
Okay.
Which one do you want to start with? And this one could be yours. So you can start with this one.
Okay. Well, let's do the top 2 teams, part 2.
Let's do it.
Right. Because I watched that first matchup between Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Right.
You and probably me might be the only 2 people that watched it.
Yeah. It was my first time. We're getting the end of football season, right, and digging into the NBA now. Right. Well, by the way, my Boston Celtics 125-85 win over Golden State today. Really
quick, since we're giving score updates, St. Louis scored on a power play. 4-2 heading into the second intermission.
Wow.
4 straight losses.
Oh, well. It's only January.
Exactly. Oh, well. This is what happens when you run ahead of the pack, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when you run ahead of the pack. You can slip up a little bit.
Yeah. But going to the, Cleveland, Oklahoma City again, but second matchup, right? Mm-hmm. Regular being in the regular, we with Oklahoma City, we saw it last year, and we kind of felt like, Oklahoma City, they're just that year away. They got everything in place. But you look at the rest of the West, and we've talked about it in the NBA too, right? Where maybe the number 1 seed isn't always getting to the finals, like how we talked about with quarterbacks, right? The best basketball team might not necessarily make it to the finals, right? It feels like in the West, it's probably shaping up that it's Oklahoma City has that path. It's their kind of theirs to lose potentially, right? And again, it's only January. We'll see how do the Timberwolves fare? How do Denver, with their start, you can't count them out. But I feel like we're gonna, the team that is ahead in like Oklahoma City, who I kind of have more faith in right now than Cleveland, because you got Boston and New York in the East and all that. So just have more faith in Oklahoma City that there might not be that drop off. There might not be that slip up that we see in the playoffs, like we've seen with some other number 1 seeds.
Pardon. I agree. Mm-hmm. I think what's so interesting about OKC is Shea, mm-hmm. right? J-Dub. After that, I think a lot of teams are going to, and the blessing in disguise has actually been losing Chet, mm-hmm. right? Because Chet is going to come back this season. And when Chet comes back this season, he's let's just say Chet goes through 2 weeks of rest, just slowly trying to get it back together, right? This team is built for Isaiah Joe to go off and give you 20 on any given night, for Isaiah Hartenstein to go out there and give you a good 15 and 15. And I believe I saw a stat. They were 22-2 without him before this last game. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, 22-2 with Isaiah before he missed this last game. What? I remember what y'all said when Chet went down. It never registered to me until I seen that stat. Where did y'all go? Y'all told me that this team was going to start slipping without a paint presence. They still got a paint presence. Somebody also mentioned really quick while we can move on to the second point. They brought up Cleveland. And they were talking about how many different teams are, like, in order to beat them, you got to be built like them. Do you know how difficult it's going to be to build your team like that? I just want people to know that. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are two bigs who like to pass. Find two other ones. You would need to go get JaVale McGee and Andre Drummond. Like, I don't know too many bigs that are that unselfish. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen have layups, easy layups, and are tossing oops to the other one. And I'm kind of with Alex, by the way. I shout out to Cleveland. This feels real Toronto Raptors-ish. Sorry. Feels like you guys are going to run away with the top seed, and everybody's going to fear 2, 3, and 4 more than you guys. We'll see what happens. I do think, really quick, before I move on from that, I do think Jared Allen is made for winning. I don't know if he wins in Cleveland, but Jared Allen could be the next center in LA. Jared Allen could be the next center in Miami. Jared Allen could be the next. Well, no, he's not because Bam. But Jared Allen could be. I think he's just a winner. Jared Allen can go win wherever he goes. That's what I feel like. Second point. Yes, this one is a little personal. But I heard everything that you guys said about Scoot Henderson loud and clear last year. He heard everything that you guys said about him last year. I want to give you guys some numbers really quick, but the reason why I wrote this down originally, Scoot's career high, previous career high, was 33 points, I believe it was. And he did it on January 14th of 2024. Do you know what Scoot did on January 14th, 2025?
New career high. 39
points, man. Shout out to my dog, Scoot, damn it. I have nothing really to say. I told you I called that one. That was literally all I wanted to say. And it happens so often, right? One thing that I find interesting is the NBA is different from we had the leader in best player conversation, right? I look at somebody like a Reed Shepherd in Houston. You look at Reed Shepherd, and this is how I ended up a couple of episodes ago during the NBA roundup. I was in here with Markel. I told Markel, I said, do me a favor, go look at who's number 2 in the West. He looked it up and his eyes got big. I said, right? Nobody even cares that it's Houston. But if you go back and you watch Reed Shepherd, you go, damn, he should be playing at the professional level. I mean, he is at the professional level. He should be playing at the big league level, right? In terms of baseball talk, he should be playing with the pro club. Why is he not with the Houston Rockets? And then you look at the Houston Rockets and it's like, where does he go?
Right.
Why do people only get it in football? And you're almost similar to Tom Brady said maybe a month or two ago. When I came into the league, not only did rookie quarterbacks not play, it was no real chance of you to play. You're going to sit this year. You're probably going to sit next year. We'll talk year 3. To see so many people hop off of the Scoot bandwagon or the train, whatever you want to call it, after his first year, I said, okay. And to everybody that hit me up and was like, what's up with your mans? Cool. Aren't you the same person that said that he don't look like an 18-year-old going against Kenneth Farid when he played for Mexico City? You want me to think that he got to the NBA and stopped, like forgot how to do that? The problem is I got Kenneth Farid every night. And then you slowly watch the progression last year. Nobody's talked about Scoot this year. I think that is the best thing for Scoot. Yeah. Pop up in year 4 and give him 25. Pop up in year 4 and give him 20 and 10. Scoot isn't starting this year. Anthony Simon and Shaden Sharp are in your backcourt starting for Portland. That's another thing that works in his favor. You want to know what else I think works in his favor? Having a point guard head coach that had a slow start.
Yeah.
In Chauncey Billups. Me and my dad talk about it all the time. KG had Chauncey. What if Chauncey became the Chauncey that he became in Detroit with KG next to him? So now, going back to what we said before, your best player, KG. 2 minutes or less, you know who I would worry about more on that team? Chauncey. I don't know that Scoot couldn't have landed in a better situation. Not to mention Pooh Jeter, who was here with the Ignite is the GM for the Rip City remix. Another person that knows Scoot very, very well. This is one of those situations where Scoot is being nurtured. And let's just say that Scoot isn't in Portland's plans. He won't be one of those young players that didn't get a chance to audition for other teams. I want to give you guys numbers on Scoot really quick, and then we can get to this last point. Where is Scoot really quick? Because I haven't even looked at this. So Scoot leads the team in assists with 5.3 a game. And now my phone wants to kick me out. See, y'all don't want me to get to the Scoot facts. I don't like it. So let's just compare his last year to this year, right? He played 2 more minutes last year and averaged 14 points. This year, he's averaging 12 and a half. So he's down a point and a half, still averaging around 5 assists a game. He has upped his steals to about 1 a game. So sounds like a backup point guard, in my opinion. 12-5 and a steal. Sounds like a point guard to me. His shooting percentages are better. He shot 39% last year. He's shooting 43% from the field this year. He shot 33% from 3 last year, 35 this year. His his free throw numbers have dropped a little bit. Just interesting to note, in my humble opinion, I think people are too quick to give up on these young kids. And obviously we see what it can turn into. Last point is, I thought my TV was broke. Try to be honest with you. They said James Harden has only missed 1 game. And I looked at the Clippers record. I said, there's 37 games in. No, the hell he didn't. Then I looked at my phone. I said, James Harden has only missed 1 game this year. Why are we not talking about that?
I don't know.
This Clipper team is only where it's at because James is still James.
Yeah.
You look at all the changes that the Clippers have had, even with guys in and out of the lineup. I'm looking at Mo Bamba play 18 minutes one night. Then I'm looking at Kai Jones play 15 minutes one night. Then I'm looking at neither guy play. The hell are y'all doing down here? The one constant, aside from Norm Powell, let's give Norm Powell a... Yeah. Somebody said, I don't know if you've seen this. Somebody said they had a list of 5 players. It was like biggest point per game jump this year. Grady Dick is number 1. Norman Powell was number 2. Why am I blanking? Dyson Daniel was top 4. Oshay Abaji was 4th, I want to say. I think that's 4. I think it's top 4. Somebody put it on Twitter, one of the greatest platforms ever, and took it and screenshotted it and said, look, all second-year players, and then 33-year-old Norman Powell, who's fueled by his hatred for Paul George. I know it's a joke, and I know it may be funny, but if Norman Powell can produce what Paul George was producing, James Harden is still James Harden. Kawhi, you can give me 25 minutes. If fully healthy, you talked about the Knights can't afford one of these slips into March, early April. Let the Clippers be healthy into March, early April. Let's say they're a 6 seed.
Yeah.
And they got to play at Denver. I know Denver's going to be like, okay, we're fine. I could tell that there could be some other people in this basketball landscape that look at that and go, this may not be the draw that you want.
Right. That team that you don't, the Clippers, if you have everyone healthy, we've seen what James Harden can do. We've seen what Kawhi Leonard can do, and everyone else kind of finding their role as you mentioned, the lineup changing and everyone kind of helping out there, right? It can make them the team you don't want to play, the most dangerous team, the dark horse that could maybe get to the finals.
I wouldn't go that far.
No?
Now, you know what? I feel like the way that Kevin Durant feels about his career is the way that James Harden's career actually will pan out. what I mean by that is I told him, my dad and I just had this conversation. KD said he don't think that he doesn't. This was when D Wade statue came out. He said he didn't think that he was like, I don't want to say deserving, but like for lack of a better term, like he was deserving of a statue anywhere. Like he didn't feel like he was getting one. Jersey retirements are different. He didn't feel like he was getting a statue anywhere. And I thought about it. I said, I still think you get one in OKC because you were the best player. I don't think you get yours first. I think Russ gets his first. But I think you ultimately get one. And then I sat back and said, well, what if he doesn't get one in the NBA? Maybe it's to his own doing, which is why he may not even care, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought about Texas. And I was like, well, I mean, you're guaranteed going to get one there, right? The reason why I bring that up is because I told my dad, I said it reminded me of what Rick Ross said, and I can't think of the record. And I'm playing it in my head. What's Beef? Or What's Free, rather. It was a What's Beef flip. It was him, Meek Mill and Jay-Z. And Ross said over a decade and never nobody's favorite. And I told my dad that kind of bothered me when I heard that. Because I was like, Ross is Ross. But he's letting you know how he feels. It bothers him when people talk about their favorite rappers. Or they give their list of rappers and Ross is not at the top. That bothers him. I feel like the way that KD feels like that about his career is actually the way that we will remember Harden. I don't know if James ever wins one.
Right.
I know what I saw when I watched James Harden hoop. I know what a difference James Harden makes on any team he's on. Not to sound like that. People say Brooklyn didn't work. Well, respectfully, why didn't it work? James wasn't there. That matters. That matters to me. So now I'm supposed to believe the Clippers are staying afloat after losing Paul George and Kawhi Leonard isn't available until recently. Well, how are they treading water? James is a bad man. That's how. And the funny thing is, we haven't heard James really be boisterous.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, obviously he did what he did in Brooklyn, but we haven't seen him be boisterous about the player that he is outside of Houston.
Right.
He probably could if he wanted to right now. You got anything on Harden or the Clippers really quick, and then I'll get to my dad's tipping.
No.
Shout out to James Harden, man. My dad sent me this like as we were going on air, I think. So, in his defense, it came in at 240 originally. But I'm just now looking at it for the first time, and this is absolutely a continuation of his rant from last week. Just so y'all know. Oh, man. All right, let's go. My dad's tipping for today. Oh, and I got something in my eye. And Alex is my witness. This, whatever this is in my eye, it's been in my eye the entire show.
Yeah.
It's been in my eye the entire show. Okay. So my dad's tipping. Man, oh man, this is a great weekend for us football fans. 4 games, 2 nail biters with the Eagles and Bills holding on for big wins. And the other 2 games, even though the scores may not indicate, we're both up for grabs until midway into the 4th quarter, with those wins going to Kansas City and Washington. My football, this is crazy. He said his football heaven came to an abrupt halt this morning. He read an article that brought back his bewilderment and dismay in terms of his Cowboy universe. So here is my continuation of last week's tip-in, aka my rant 2.0. This article only proves that the dysfunction is at the top of the Cowboys management totem pole. And it's now showing that not only poor coaching choices, as well as other questionable decisions, but in the success, hold on. I don't know why this email just popped up. Sorry, guys. Where are we at? But in the success of other assistant coaches as soon as they leave the organization. The article that my dad is speaking about, and he quoted 7 Dallas assistant coaches from 2022 and 2023 will be participating in the NFC Championship game this weekend. First of all, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? TJ making Iowa State a national contender in year one.
Mm.
And I knew that my dad was going here. Most notably, former Dallas Cowboy defensive coordinator Dan Quinn will be leading his Washington Commanders into Philadelphia to face the Philadelphia Eagles, whose offensive play caller is former Cowboy offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. The article doesn't state who the other 5 coaches are, so I had to do a little research. But I found out that they include Philly quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier, quarterback defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr., and Commanders assistant defensive coordinator Sharif Floyd. I could not find the other 2, but it seems as if all have moved on and gotten a little bit closer to the big game than we have in quite a while. He said good luck to those guys. Shout out to my dad for even bringing that to my attention. I don't know that I would have done it. He's absolutely insane to even admit that and or address that. I think the Dan Quinn move, I told my dad a couple of years ago, was going to bite him. And here we are. This Dan Quinn move, I felt like was the writing on the wall for Dallas. I felt like he thought it was the writing on the wall for Dallas, which is why he didn't take head coaching interviews a couple of years ago until he did this year, right? And we see obviously what it has yielded for him. You got anything else?
Just that's the Cowboys for you.
My dad didn't want to hear that.
No.
I don't think he wanted to hear that at all. The third period is just now getting underway, I believe it is. So 4-2 game at the Fortress. Shout out to Isaiah Torres, who is in the building right now covering that game. But from us over at the studio, signing off. Until next time, guys. Keep on talking.